Your Town Matters is funded by the Government of Canada through the Local Journalism Initiative and supported by Cactus Media, Canada's independent community television association.
I'm Vicki Hogarth, and welcome to Your Town Matters. My guest today is the Mayor of the Village of Blacks Harbour, John Craig. Thank you for being here today, John.
It's an honor to be here.
Obviously, one of the biggest things that we can talk about right off the bat is amalgamation and how that is affecting your area. And it is one of the biggest changes in the province, what's now being called Entity 53. Blacks Harbour, St. George, Penfield, all the way to Bonny River. It's a huge area. Can you talk a little bit about how that's going?
Well, it is huge. Geographically, it's huge. I mean, in the province, it's probably one of the most changed areas in the whole province of the changes coming up. I mean, you have to get out onto the main highway and travel down the highway quite a ways to go to the next community, whereas some of these things are very close, but we're not even that close. It's a big area in between us. It's going, the population-wise, we're going up to probably about 7,000 people. So it's a huge area with a huge amount of people, and it's the ridings I call it the ridings, or the zones are getting worked out as to what the voting areas and that sort of thing. They're still working on that, but they're finally getting them down close to where it's going to be, and it's coming together a little bit. So it's a major challenge for us and the province.
So the lines are still being drawn, and I understand that you did have a transition coordinator. That person has since left. So where are you at with the transition committee and moving forward?
There is none at the moment. No, they're having trouble getting somebody to take that role. But I do know tomorrow night there is a meeting about the naming, because by May 16th, regardless of if the transition person's in place or not, by May 16th the province has told us that they will pick a name if we don't give them a name. So, tomorrow night there is a meeting of the group is getting together, and they'll take all the names that was given to the group through the different offices and that sort of thing. People handed names in, that sort of thing, and so the group would get together tomorrow night and probably pick 3 or 4 to send to the province. They won't send just one; they'll send 3 or 4, because the province might just say, "Well, we don't like that one," and go with one. So we have to give them a few examples, a few ideas.
And I guess too, with other entities renaming, they might even be taken.
That could be too, yeah. And you know, it could be just a. It really doesn't. At the end of the day, it's small potatoes. It's just coming up with a name, because with the province has already said the new government, once it gets elected at the end of November, and they take over the 1st of January, they can easily change that name. That's not a problem. So this is just the area is trying to work together to coming up with a name. Maybe the name will stick, maybe not, but at least it'll be a name. But one thing that people have to know, and it's up to me to get that information out there, and all the leaders to get the information out there, is that this does not change your mailing address. And this is what some people are getting worried about. How am I going, I got a business, I get my business cards all made up, and now I got to add, it doesn't change that one iota. So your mailing address is still the same. So where mine was like 9 Deadman's Harbour, Blacks Harbour, that still stays the same. So people not to worry about that part of it. So
you don't lose your identity as a village.
No, we won't lose our identity as where you live. Blacks Harbour being an incorporated village, we'll lose that, but we're still still be the Blacks Harbour. So still St. George, and those names will still stay in place.
And with Blacks Harbour, this is 50 years since incorporation, so it's a little bittersweet, I'm sure, too.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's 50 years. In 1972, Richard Hatfield declared Blacks Harbour to be an official village of the province of New Brunswick. It was in November that year, and in November this year will be 50 years. And so it is kind of bittersweet that we are the last council for the last 50 years. We are the last ones. Like I say, it's where we are having celebrations this year. In June, we're planning on having some bands at the arena and a music night for adults, and there'll be different things going on during the year. We're giving away different prizes so far this year to do with the 50th anniversary. So, so as the year goes along, there'll be more things going on. Of course, the Labor Day weekend, we always have festivities anyway, so it'll probably be bigger and better this year, we hope.
I know a lot of people look forward to learning about the history of Charlotte County. Some of the most popular shows we do here at CHCO are history moments and reflections on how the community has grown. So I know seniors will be telling stories this summer as well from Blacks Harbour?
That's what we're hoping, so get the seniors in to tell us some stories, especially if they can go back as far as 72 and what was going on in 72 when they first incorporated as a village, or even further back for that matter. Blacks Harbour has a rich history here, so even before we were incorporated as a village, Blacks Harbour existed. It just became an official village of the province, but Blacks Harbour has a very deep history especially with what goes on in the ocean, the Bay of Fundy, and that sort of thing too. So.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I didn't realize that with the mailing address. It still says, that's nice to hear.
That will stay the same, yeah. And that's my job, to make sure people know that, because I get that question a lot. I just changed my address for my business and all that sort of thing. I said, no, that doesn't change. Yeah.
And for branding, I suppose, with tourism, that's the question we're getting too from people who rely on an identity as a tourist destination. So it will stay Blacks Harbour.
That's right, exactly. Yep.
And will just be a section of Entity 53.
Yeah, it'd be just a name for the whole group together. It'd be one name for whoever that comes up with. It could be Eastern Charlotte, for that matter. I just thrown that out there. It could be something else. I don't know, but there are a lot bigger decisions coming up. Other than naming, there's a lot, as far as making sure that people who we're going to put in place for the CAO of the area.
Right.
And that's more important decisions than our budgets for the next year. We have decisions to make on unions, for example, like our Public Works has a union, and the St. George Public Works has a union, two separate unions, two separate agreements, and so we have to work that out, whether those agreements stay in place, or do we meld them together. There's going to be a lot of decisions made over the next couple of years, 6 months, even the next few years. There's going to be a lot of major decisions coming up.
I know that's had an impact, and I know you've been able to have some new hires in this time, but it must make it challenging because most people have to reapply for their jobs once you are amalgamated. Is that correct?
Some of them in the office, most of the office. The Public Works crew should be all right, and be no problem issues. But the one thing that I will say is that the province has guaranteed me is that nobody will lose their job. That doesn't mean that they will be doing the same job, but they will have a job when it's all said and done. And that's one thing I'll be definitely staying on top of, making sure that everybody that's working there now will have a job when it's all said and done. Because to me, that's the most important thing, is to make sure that the existing people that work for us now have a job afterwards.
And I know you've mentioned to me before, you will be running for mayor of the soon-to-be-named entity.
Absolutely. I decided to run for the mayorship, and I think it's important from day one that the people in place, like the mayorship position, has somebody with experience, and we need somebody at the helm or at the top to be able to know how things work, especially how meetings work and how people try to get the people to work together. And I want to be very clear, it's not what John Craig wants. It's what my goal is, to make sure that the councillors work together, and that's what the councillors bring to the table. And I want to make sure that everybody has a chance to be heard and to be able to have a chance to put input into it. Not just the councillors too, but the people on the outside. Everybody that they represent, they should all have a voice at this too. But I never run with the idea of what am I going to do. It's what my job is, to make sure that they work together to find the priorities, to work together and be able to bring those priorities to fruition.
Yeah, I know that they're still ironing out a lot of the details of how it's going to work, but given that Entity 53, and I do like to stress this because it's, for me, the most fascinating change to follow because it's so extensive and is going to cover such a large geographical area that does have, some very distinct personalities in it as well. What are you hearing about how that's going to work in terms of representation? Will there be a ward system in place?
Yeah, and that's if you, I think the gentleman in the back, Patrick, probably has a copy of that right now. There is a ward system, and the wards have been changing here and there and everywhere, like as far as where the line is exactly. Originally, what the ward is supposed to be is one ward is Blacks Harbour, one is Beaver Harbour, another is Penfield, another is the LSD of St. George, which is the outside area of St. George going up to Digby-Gwash Lake. The Fundy Bay area, which is the southern area of St. George, going right down to Letite, and then of course the town of St. George. That's 6, the ones I just named, that's 6 different wards. So every one of those wards is guaranteed a seat at the table. Okay. So everybody's going to be guaranteed, and then there'll be 2 at large. So 2 people can represent the whole area. They're still working on the lines themselves as to where the which house is going to be in this area and that sort of thing. They're still working out all those details, but it's getting fairly close as the map will show that the lines are getting down to where they're going to be. But it's been a lot of changes here, there, and everywhere. It's actually made Penfield a little bit smaller. It's made the LSD of St. George a little bit bigger. It goes a large area to the north and to the west, and I think the Fundy Bay area didn't change a whole lot. But saying that, there is the opportunity. There was not the opportunity, but the chance that the St. George area could actually could have 5 seats at the table because the way the wards are lined up here, if you look at the way the map is, each one extends in close to St. George, so that is 3 seats right there. The Fundy Bay, the St. George LSD, and the town of St. George, that's 3 seats. And then you get 2 at large. That could end up being 5 seats in the St. George area.
Just there.
And then leaving the last 3 being Penfield, Beaver Harbour, and Blacks Harbour.
Okay, so then 8 representatives and a mayor.
Exactly.
That?
That's correct.
And then what's the total population? Because it will be a big population.
Yeah, the total population is around 7,000 people. Yeah. Wow. So it's the most for me that I've ever represented. I've represented St. Andrews, which is close to 1,900 people, and then of course Blacks Harbour is right around just short of 1,000. So this is the most I would ever represented as mayor, jumping up to 7,000 people. So it's a huge, and geography is huge too. My campaign manager is here today, and he's going to be with me all summer, and it's a big area. I'm looking forward to it because this summer I said to Heather, I said, I won't count on me being home too much this summer because I'm going to be out knocking on doors, talking to people, because it's a beautiful area. Gorgeous, every little spot, every canal, the canal beach, and up to towards Digby-Gwash and down to Letite and the lighthouses and stuff like that. I'm looking forward to seeing all these areas, seeing people, and it's a great. To me, it's going to be an adventure this summer.
I wonder if is that history making to have been a mayor of 3. It would be 3 different.
Well, probably, yeah. I think it was history when I won Blacks Harbour, because I don't think anybody in New Brunswick ever was mayor of 2 different communities, not at the same time, but at 2 different times. So this would be the 3rd.
Would be your hat trick.
Exactly, that's right.
Can you tell me a little bit about what's the sentiment on current council? I know that what has been in some ways a challenge to work with the new council has also been an asset to work with people that are really energetic and bring fresh ideas to the table. What is their thoughts on running? Are any of them ready to throw their hat in at this point?
I've only had one so far, and that's my deputy mayor, Adam Hatt, and I hope, and I'm backing him. I think he'll do a good job. He's very energetic. He's a young family, has a young family. One of the first things we did as a council was to make sure the arena stayed open, and that's his passion, is the arena in Blacks Harbour. and not just the arena, but housing and everything else. But that was one of the main things at the very beginning. And he and his wife Kara have a lot of passion for Blacks Harbour and the arena. And they're young and they're dynamic, and he listens to people, so he'll be an excellent counselor for the Blacks Harbour area. I'm not taking away from the other ones because the other ones haven't said what they're going to do,
Okay.
but Adam would do a good job. Yeah.
On the topic of the arena, I know that there was a really successful CHCA that happened, I guess, across Charlotte County. I think I played a couple of weeks. Didn't win. Nick Lawson, whoever you are, I think that's the name of the winner.
Yeah.
But $88,800 of that is going towards the arena in Blacks Harbour, which is wonderful to hear.
Yeah.
Do you know yet? I know at council they said they weren't quite sure exactly where it would go, but they'd have news soon.
Yeah, and Councillor Amber Libby, actually Amber has ties to St. Andrews. Her family is from down this way. So no, we haven't quite decided that yet. There's some different projects we want to get done. One of them being a girls' changing room and that sort of thing too. That's very important. But we want to make sure we maximize and get the best we can, because sometimes you can take that money and put it towards a project and you get the province to put money towards that same project too. So we're talking to our MLA, Andrea, and Andrea is going to try to, sometimes when you can match funds and get double your amount of money, so we're going to take that money and get the best we can out of it. But we definitely, all that money will go back to the arena. I do know that one of the things we're looking at, whether it's from that money or another, or it could be from our own money as a village, is putting a new clock in there. It needs a brand new clock in that building, so we are going to be doing that.
Wow, okay. Is that Andrea was at the council meeting afterwards? There was
Yes,
another meeting
exactly.
that must
That's
have
one of the reasons. Andrea's doing a great job for us, and Andrea comes there to meet with council every so often and wants to know what projects we want to work on this coming year. And we've got a lot of projects. We're going to spend a lot of money this summer. We're going to be working on streets, sidewalks, recreation. There's all these different projects we want to get done. We have money to be able to do it, but we want to be able to maximize it by putting it with provincial and federal money. So she's going to help us try to maximize that. There's certain projects that fit into what they want. So if we can put it up against theirs, then we only may have to pay a third of it to get a certain project done. But there will be a lot of work going on this summer. We will be spending a fair amount of money in Blacks Harbour this summer.
Wonderful. It's a nice Andrea Anderson Mason, Fundy, the Isle of St. John West. I see her when I'm on Grand Manan. She makes the rounds of the council meetings, which is really great to see.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, Andrea does a great job, and she's say these late night. I mean, sometimes she has to be in Fredericton, but she makes time to come out to the council meetings and talk to the full council, which is great. There's always a position there, place for her to be, and we're great that she's able to do that.
Well, and more of the improvements and infrastructure changes in Blacks Harbour, and I think one of the ways you're really leading the way in the province is that with the housing crisis, it's not just a national issue, it's an international issue. But Blacks Harbour has three or four different developments in progress or about to be underway. I know Eastern Charlotte Waterways. Can you speak a little bit about the work they're doing first?
Yeah, Eastern Charlotte Waterways are developing. They're going to be building two brand new apartment buildings down there. They are a little bit behind this year getting it started, and they came to council to move their, so they have an agreement with the village. They had to be started by a certain time, but because of COVID and because of getting things done through the province, like as far as funding, and they were a little bit behind on the rezoning, but that wasn't their fault. That was kind of because of the election and the changeover at Village Hall. That got put up on the back burner a little bit, so they're a little bit behind. They're a few months behind, but they will be starting this year, but just not as soon as they thought they would be. Of course, Craig Hooper is purchasing the 260 building, and that was one of the things at the council meeting tonight for the rezoning. Connors Brothers still actually at this point still owns it, so they're getting the rezoning done for that building. So when Greg takes it over, it'll be the rezoning part will be all done, so they can have a mixed use, mixed residential building there. So they have different apartments in that building. So that's going to be happening this year. There's a couple other pieces of land that we purchased one property too. We didn't get into the details because of legalities, but you saw that we did buy property from the province during the meeting, and that we were hoping that there'd be person would come in there and build a nice development in that property we just bought, which is on the main street of Blacks Harbour. So the water and sewage is already there, so it's not going to be any slowed down process. It'll be going fairly fast. There's another piece of property too that we're looking at. Council hasn't made a final decision on it yet, but they're thinking where the playground area is when you first come into Blacks Harbour, we may change that into residential and change the playground area to closer to the arena with a fenced in area for the playground. So we may take that property there and put more housing in there too. So this council is very proactive and trying to move ahead very fast, and we know that we have a timetable in front of us. We do know that November is our cutoff date that we're all done. So we're trying to move really fast, spend what we can this year, and what we spend on as far as roads and that sort of thing too, not just fixing up what we got, but also putting road work in so that more houses can go in too, and that's something we're looking at too. So, like for example, where the Eastern Charlotte is, extending that street where they are, so that because there's a lot more land and beyond them, so that more houses can go in just beyond that too.
I think what's really fascinating about Blacks Harbour and the developments going on there is that in some communities they might be addressing the housing crisis, but it goes towards one sort of economic bracket. In Blacks Harbour, you have the full spectrum, and you have Eastern Charlotte Waterways Project, for instance, has the electric car option of shared vehicles too, that speaks to maybe younger people starting off, or people who are retiring and want to be on a more sort of maybe not as large a development project, a more fixed income that really works for whatever lifestyle you have. And also, I think, have you noticed with New Brunswick becoming this popular place to move to, the silver lining of the pandemic? I know that a lot of communities in Charlotte County experienced growth, but with Blacks Harbour, you're close enough to the city for commuters. Are you experiencing growth in that range too, with people who might still be working and commuting to St. John?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's, like I say, Blacks Harbour is becoming the place that people want to come to, which is great. It's finally, when the house or a property comes up for sale, it sells fairly fast, and prices usually a little bit higher. I do feel bad, and I say this very openly, is that I do feel bad for younger people today, the younger generation just starting out, get their education, just starting working in their jobs, just get married. It's very hard for them to be able to go out and buy a house right now and get started because of the price. That's the bad thing I see right now. But be able to have, at least they'd be able to have affordable apartments and that sort of thing is a good thing. But I hope the economy changes a little bit so that the houses will start to come down in price. I'm not saying this is good for a person selling it right now, but I feel bad for the young families getting started. It must be very, very hard for them to be able to even come up with a down payment for a house that probably last year was $150, now it's probably worth $350 or $450 now. So that's who I feel bad for in this whole thing that's happening in the world.
Well, it's nice to have a community like Blacks Harbour to look to. I think a lot of communities look to other places for their own solutions, so it's definitely fascinating to follow. And again, as I mentioned, fascinating to follow is this amalgamation process. What, for you, are the biggest challenges right now as you work with the council that was elected just last summer, and knows this will be ending November? How do you navigate this sort of, it's not limbo, you're still obviously doing your jobs, but you know that there's this big change coming? Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of, we feel bad because when we made a change last year in Blacks Harbour, it wasn't me that made the change, it was the people of Blacks Harbour. Made a significant change. They made sure that we have a brand new council, all brand new people, and then all of a sudden, a year and a half later, we're all done, and we got elected for 4 years, and they're cutting it short. So, and our council is doing very good work. They're moving ahead. They're working together. I wouldn't say always 100% together, because there are times when you have to disagree, but things are moving ahead and doing a very good job, and they think outside the box, and they're willing to work with different developers and making sure that things happen. They're trying to move things ahead faster, and now we have to move even faster, because now we know we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Come November, we're all done. So we feel bad that way, but we have to make the best of what was given to us and move forward.
And I know it's not quite the campaign time yet, but
No, that's all right.
what do you think will be the biggest challenges moving into a role if you are elected mayor of?
I think, honestly, the biggest challenge is get everybody to work together, and I'll be very open about that. It's you got all these wards who will be representing all these different individual areas. The key here would be to get every one of them to work together to do what's better for the whole area, not just for one zone or for another zone, but work together. Okay, work together. Find out what the priorities are of the whole area. Work with the council, find out what the priorities are, and then figure out from those priorities what are the top priorities. So if it means putting, and then I'll just use it as an example, but we might need a brand new road going down to the Giron Ferry. I just threw it out there. I don't know if they do or not, but it's saying maybe that's where the money should be spent this year, because that's going to be good for tourism, for people to jump on the boat to go over to the islands and that sort of thing. Maybe that's where the money, a fair amount of money, could be spent this year, and work on different areas next year. Have a 5-6 year plan, 10-year plan, but we've got to learn to work together what's better for the whole community. That's going to be the biggest challenge, I think, as a mayor. And it's not going to be, like I said months ago, it's not going to be all roses, but we have to work together, and that's the key. This is what the province gave us. We have to move ahead and do the best we can for the whole area. And I mean, I'll be honest with you, and I was never for the amalgamation at the beginning. There's 3 of us that spoke out against it: Adam, myself, and Jerry Wells. We spoke out. And we said we didn't like the idea because we lost representation in Blacks Harbour. That's who elected us, was Blacks Harbour. So Blacks Harbour goes from our council down to one representative at the new table. So that's the reason I was against it, because we lost a representation for Blacks Harbour. But it's over. We move ahead, and we're going to get the best we can out of it. And I think as mayor, we need somebody in there that has some background knowledge, that has some experience, and try to bring people together and knows how the system works. So we need somebody in there from day one. If we have a mayor in there that's brand new, that's never been a mayor before, we're going to have even more trouble. So we've got to have somebody in there right from day one to be able to keep this going.
Well, I feel like we just did a year ago municipal election interviews, so I guess I will be having you.
And one of my biggest things too is having you guys, CHCO. I mean, the previous council in Blacks Harbour didn't want anything to do with CHCO. And as soon as I get elected, I asked the new council, let's have a vote. Day one, first meeting. One of our first votes was to have CHCO. They're already up. They had the camera ready to tape, but we made an actual vote together as a council to have CHCO there, so that everybody can see you and see us and making decisions. And it's been a great thing. I think it's great that people can sit at home, and then the pandemic, and with the pandemic going on, people don't have to go out to the meeting. They can see it. They can see what's going on. So that was a major thing just right there. And I hope the new council will be doing the same thing. We'll have everything televised so that people can see how we make decisions and why. And I always encourage, one thing I do encourage council is to debate. I think the people want to see their councillor debate issues, how they feel, not just automatically say, yeah, I vote for that, yes. I think there should be debate on issues so that people can understand why things are being decided and how they feel on the issue. So debate is healthy.
And we'll definitely be inviting all the candidates back again for election interviews. So I'm glad to hear that you will definitely be here for that. I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely.
And thank you for being here today, John.
Well, thank you for having me. Great. Thank you.
My guest today has been the mayor of the village of Blacks Harbour, John Craig. I'm Vicki Hogarth. Thank you for watching Your Town Matters.